Hello from Cuba! Today I wanted to share with you the joy, strength, simplicity, spirit and beauty that I have found here in Cuba. We have been spending some time in Havana, and today I'm shooting this video in Varadero, which is about a 2-3 hour drive from Havana. And the reason that we chose Havana is we wanted a little bit of adventure and somewhere that would be that neither of us have explored before, somewhere where we can explore and find our own opinions, because when I was researching Cuba there were a lot of very conflicting opinions out there, so it's nice to come here and form your own opinion. So make sure you stay until the end of the video, because I will share with you some must-knows if you do plan a visit to Cuba. For me, the joy of Cuba has been the excitement of discovering particularly Havana. It's such a vibrant, full of energy city. They talk about New York being the city that never sleeps, but let me tell you, you need a lot of energy to come to Havana and experience all it has to offer. The architecture is phenomenal, and the music that's blaring out from buildings with people salsaing, and on every corner you have people playing music. People walk along with music blaring out of their backpacks, and then in parks you have these men just playing the trumpet, all very cool and relaxed in the shade on a park bench, and it's just beautiful. So there's the cigar lounges as well, so that's been a joy to discover. So yeah, we went in and tried a cigar. You have to do that when you're in Havana, don't you? So that was an experience, and seeing how they light it for you and everything. Unfortunately, we couldn't get to the cigar factory, which we wanted to. We just didn't have enough time, and it's quite a way out of the city, the main one. So, and then there's the food. They like their fritters in Havana, so they put things like chickpeas and fish and that kind of thing in there. If you're vegetarian, then it's a little bit more difficult, because they do tend to cook for example, an omelette. They'll cook the one with cheese in the same bit as the one with ham, so you might get a little bit of a taste of ham in there. And yeah, it's just to be warned that if you're vegetarian or vegan, it will be a little bit more difficult to eat here. You'll have to be quite careful. The other thing is, it's the opportunity to connect with the locals and taking the time to have a chat with people on the street, and people that you meet in a bar or a restaurant. So for example, we stopped to have a chat with one of the local artists. They have all lined up art down one of the central walkways in Havana, and just taking the time to have a bit of a chat with him is just really a great insight into their life here. Let's move on to strength. For me, this has been about the strength of the people here. About 88% of the population here live in extreme poverty, and we witnessed that on the streets. You have a lot of people rifling through bins looking for food, and people coming up to you in the street as well. And you're not supposed to, well, our tour guide said to us, you're not supposed to give them money. It's better to donate to a church or a hospital. But when they're right there in front of you, it's very difficult not to give them some money. And we took the time to speak to a couple of them. One example was a guy who'd lost half his leg, and he was on crutches, and he explained that he used to work as a mechanic, but unfortunately he had an accident and lost half his leg, and the reason he was begging when we met him for some European money or dollars was because he had a big gash in his other foot and he needed to have an operation. He explained that the operation would be free and provided for, but for the medication he'd need post-operation, the local pharmacies don't tend to have the medication that he would need, so you have to go to an international pharmacy, and for that he would need to pay in euros or dollars. So that was why he was asking for money. So it feels very safe though, let me tell you, that don't feel that it would be an unsafe place. We walked through a lot of very deprived areas and just felt totally safe, didn't once feel uneasy. So, you know, the Cuban people are very kind, and the markets, for example, the Saturday market we went to was thriving, and it was just great to be in there amongst the hustle and bustle and see how they spend their time, where they get their supplies from. It's all very different, and there's so much that's lacking. It's really difficult for them to get hold of everything. So one tip as well we had before we came here was to do things like bring toothbrushes or combs or things like that you can give out to them as well. So, and then the strength as well for me of actually coming here, because it did push me out of my comfort zone to come here, but it's really the strength of the people that I most admire here. Simplicity. I wanted to keep it simple when I came here and just bring hand luggage, and it was a bit of a challenge to myself as well to see if I could do it, and I shared the last couple of videos were all about what I packed and how I got my liquids through security. I'm pleased to say that they did get through, both in London and the connection in Paris, and then when we got here. So everything that I showed you last week in that plastic container got through. So having hand luggage as well, of course, means when you get here it's just easy. You can just come straight out and not have to wait for your luggage. And if you do have a connecting flight, it depends where you're coming from, but our connecting flight, because the first flight was late, and so we had to run to get our connecting flight, and it just meant that at least we weren't worrying about would the luggage make it as well. And of course it's a warm climate here, so it's very easy to just pack light. I had like 3 dresses which I wore on repeat here, a couple of pairs of shorts and t-shirts for the daytime to explore. I wore trainers to come out in, which I could use here if we were going for long walks or into the gym, and then a couple of pairs of flip-flops and a couple of bikinis, and that's pretty much all that you need for a week here. So let me sum up the spirit of Cuba for you. When I first stepped out into Havana, it was the onslaught of colour everywhere. The classic cars, of course, which are exactly what you expect, and we had a ride in one of them all around town. It took us for about an hour all around to see the main sites, and we had a lovely man who was our driver and pointed out certain buildings and things like Revolution Square and so on, and the colourful buildings as well. You know, they are run down, most of them, and it's such a shame because if they had the money to invest, it would just be the most stunning city. But there's something about the beauty of the dilapidated buildings as well, and that colour coming through the buildings which are sort of crumbling a little bit. So, and then of course the music, the sounds of the music everywhere, the traffic, there's hardly any traffic because of course most people can't afford to be driving cars. So it's literally the classic cars, a few taxis and a few larders and things like that, all driving around. And yeah, so there's no traffic at all. And then the music that I mentioned as well, that sort of captures the whole spirit of the place. And then here in Varadero as well, it's quite nice coming afterwards just to sort of have a bit of wind down time after the buzz of Havana city, to come and just chill here on the beautiful beaches, and the ocean is just stunning, beautiful and clear. And if you come expecting, if you're staying in a 5-star hotel or a 4-star hotel, you just need to just adjust your expectations a little bit, because a 4 or 5-star hotel in the middle of London, for example, would be very different to what you get here in Havana. You know, they give you the best that they have, but it's not necessarily what you might expect. So you just have to just adjust your expectation a little bit. The beauty of Cuba, well, of course, here in Varadero, stunning beaches, white sand, beautiful turquoise ocean, golden hour with the sunset and the beautiful reds coming through the clouds. And then really the lush landscapes here. I hadn't realised quite how vibrantly green Cuba is. There's loads and loads of palm trees. The royal palm apparently is their sort of national tree, and they're everywhere. But yes, just really, really lush landscapes, and gorgeous flowers, red flowers amongst the hedges. And yeah, they do things like here at the beach resort, and they take the leaves from the palm tree and they actually make a hat. It's like a proper sort of sun hat for you. So yeah, the culture of the people and the welcomingness of them here, as well as, of course, part of its charm. The other thing that I was surprised about is how much art there is here. There's some really, really stunning pieces. So in the middle of Havana on Saturday, they have down the central part, main street through Havana, is just lined with artists who are displaying their wares, their paintings and drawings and so on. And let me tell you, they are really, really talented. So I wished that I'd had more cash, because I would definitely have bought, and unfortunately they don't take cards, obviously. But yeah, they have some really stunning pieces, so do make sure you bring enough to purchase a nice little bit of art. And then it's not just the art on the street, but in the hotels and some of the sculptures and things. Yeah, it's been quite unexpected to find so much beautiful art here. As promised, let me share with you some of the things that I think you definitely need to know before you visit Cuba. Obviously, it's going to depend where in the world you're coming from, and I can only speak to what you need if you're travelling from England. So you'll need a visa. So I will put in the description a link to the company that we use to get our visas, because apparently some of the visas that people get online tend to not, they don't turn up. People pay hundreds and then they never actually get their visa. So I'll give you the link to a trusted source to get your visa. And then 2 days before you fly in, you have to fill out an API form, an advanced passenger information form, which is basically a very simple form to attest to the fact that you're well and healthy, a little bit like the forms you used to have to fill out during COVID. It's just another one of those sort of health forms you have to fill out. Then the second thing is hotels. only take credit cards. They don't really take cash. Not really. They don't take cash. It's quite rare. So if you are buying anything in your hotel, or you're visiting another hotel for a drink or a coffee or something, you'll need to pay by credit card. They don't take American Express, by the way. And if you're then going to local restaurants and bars or buying anything, there aren't a lot of shops, to be honest, here. But if you're buying anything that's not within a hotel, or you're taking a taxi, that kind of thing, you'll need cash for that. So there's no option to pay with a card in a restaurant. So you'll need to use either Cuban pesos, but the locals really prefer it if you can use dollars or euros, and have lots of $1 bills or Canadian dollars. I've seen them take as well. Have lots of small denominations to be able to give out to people as tips if you want to do that as well. The other thing is using your phone here. So again, I can't speak to everywhere in the world, but certainly from the UK, you don't want to use your phone here because it will cost you an absolute fortune. So make sure you turn roaming off and you use the hotel Wi-Fi, basically. So just be aware of that, and if there are things that you're going to need access to, make sure you've downloaded them so you can still see them. So for example, if you've got your flight information attached to an email and you haven't actually downloaded it, then make sure that you have done that so that you can still access things if you don't actually have Wi-Fi and you're en route to the airport or something like that. The other thing to mention is we were told not to drink the water from the taps, which is something I didn't know about. It's fine to clean your teeth with it, but make sure if you're having water that you always have bottled water. And finally, as I mentioned, be prepared if you're vegetarian or vegan that it will be a little bit more difficult here. It's not that there aren't vegetarian options, it's just if you're very strict, they tend to use the same pans and things and utensils to cook your food as they would that's cooking something with meat. So for example, I had an omelette the other day and I could taste chorizo in it. So that's something else to bear in mind. Oh, that breeze is nice. So just a few final closing thoughts from me here in Cuba. The first is it's made me see the beauty in imperfection, and not just surroundings and things, but in myself as well. And that's something that I will take away from here. The other thing is that I've always been grateful anyway, but it's really taught me even more so now to be so grateful for that roof over my head and a comfortable home, clean water to drink, the basics of being able to access food readily, and to have access to medicine easily as well. And that's something that I will go home with and be grateful for. So let me know what your travel aspirations are, and if you have any other questions as well about Cuba and visiting Cuba, then drop them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. And I will really look forward to catching up with you next week. Bye.